Good afternoon and greetings, students. This is the Professor Travel welcoming you to our channel. Today, we're going to talk about the same thing we do every time we go in to have an opportunity to meet. We're going to discuss about learning about new locations. We're going to discuss them as a community. We're going to talk about the travels, and hopefully you'll get an opportunity to travel to some of these locations that we are headed to. And then I want to hear back from you. I want that feedback. I want to really enjoy those destinations as you start to travel to them. So before I get started, I wanted to just really quickly go over some of our social media sites. You can always reach me at theprofessortravel.com. You can find us on YouTube at The Professor Travel, same with Facebook and Instagram. You can find me also on Twitter at TheProfessorTR1. And then, of course, I'm also available through Blogspot as well at The Professor Travel. Today, our visiting professor is Mr. Chad Swaney, or should I say Dr. Chad Swaney. So congratulations and welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. So for our listeners, for the uninitiated here, can you tell us a little bit about both your education and maybe some of the countries that you've visited in the past?
Yeah, sure. Education-wise, I just finished my doctorate this past year in educational technology at Pepperdine University. And that was, unfortunately for me, an 11-year-long process. I was one of those people that stayed all but dissertation for a very long time. But my background is in learning and technology. So that's what I've done for like the last 20 years. So primarily in adult learning and in corporate environments.
Wonderful. And just sampling, where are some of the countries that you've had an opportunity to travel throughout your time?
Yeah, I've been to about 15 countries in the last 2 years. So I've done several trips to Europe. So I've been to Iceland, Denmark, Netherlands, Czech Republic, Germany. So quite a few in Europe, and then traveled quite a bit to Asia. So primarily India, Singapore. Those are a couple of my favorite spots in Asia.
Nice.
So, yep.
Very cool. Now, 15 countries in just a couple of years is a huge amount of countries. I mean, for myself, yeah. I mean, how do you end up doing that? I mean, because I usually take week-long trips. You have a little bit of a different strategy, correct?
Yes, my approach to travel is different from a lot of people because I actually enjoy the traveling part. So for me, the fun of getting an airplane, going somewhere new, and trying a city out or a place out for just a short period of time. I rarely am in a city or a location for more than 24 hours. So most of my trips are typically a long weekend. I'll typically fly out because most flights out of the U.S. are in the evening. I'll typically fly out in Thursday evening and then arrive back Sunday evening or Monday morning and maybe go to 1 or 2 cities. So that's kind of how I travel, and I like getting a lot of different experiences that way.
That's incredible. I mean, for myself, oh wow. You must be younger than me because I don't know that I can kind of schedule. That seems kind of crazy. But hey, you know what? Honestly, if it works for you and you're getting the experience that you like from that, more power to you, man. Because I know that a lot of people have different ways in which they travel and different strategies that they do. I think that that's really interesting. And it's kind of almost, I guess, like a sampling of the location. So that way, if you wanted to go back, you can kind of feel it out and maybe do that if you wanted to.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's part of it for sure. There are definitely places. So like of those 15 countries that I've been to in the last couple of years, there are maybe 2 or 3 that I've done extended trips to. And that's Mexico, French Polynesia, and Eastern Europe or Central Europe. And that's basically been because I sampled it and decided, oh, this is a place I'd like to do a longer trip.
And what do you refer to as an extended trip? Like, what does that mean to you?
To me, it's anything longer than 5 days.
Okay, that's cool. So awesome. Well, I invited you on because I really wanted to find out a little bit more about this trip that you took to the Maldives. Can you tell us a little bit about like how long it took to start to do the planning on that?
Sure. Yes. So unlike many of those other trips, which are kind of random and short, the my trip to the Maldives this summer was something I had planned out for a very long time. So this was something where I had had pictures of the Maldives as, backgrounds on my computer for years and years and years. And there was basically this sweet spot last year where you could get a really good deal using your Marriott points
Okay.
for the St. Regis in Maldives, which is most people consider to be the best resort in the Maldives and probably one of the best resorts in the world. And so I knew that I had been wanting to go there for a while. And by reading some travel blogs, there was this sweet spot to redeem points at the highest end resorts that Marriott has. So that I essentially spent 2 to 3 weeks just refreshing, like picking random dates and refreshing my browser to
Mhm.
find any availability at that resort. So I started planning about 10 months. Like I actually had a date in mind 10 months in advance because that was the
Wow.
one time I refreshed the screen and there was a room available.
That's impressive. I mean, like a lot of people, and I think we talked about this just before the broadcast. A lot of people when they're planning this out, they don't really know how long they should take in order to plan out a really successful vacation for themselves. When I'm usually traveling, it might be on a cruise or it might be on an extended holiday. And when I'm doing something like that, I usually want to travel or think about it 6 months to a year in advance, and in some cases even longer than that. So I don't know if you feel like, was this something that, I mean, you said you had screensavers up for quite some time about so this was something that you'd been thinking about. It's been definitely at the top of
Yeah.
your mind for quite some time.
Like in general, I knew that one of my like lists of things I wanted to do in my life was to go to the Maldives.
Nice.
And I knew that this was the resort I wanted to go to because it's the best one that everybody wants to go to. So yeah, that had been for years, but like I said, it was about 10 months in advance when I actually started solidifying dates. And for most of the traveling I do, it can really vary whether I do things kind of last minute or quite a bit in advance. And a lot of it depends on my reason for traveling. A lot of those short trips might be specifically because there's a particular airplane that I want to fly on or a particular new airline that I want to try out. So if that's the case, a lot of times I will plan those far in advance because I want to make sure that I get that specific aircraft on that specific route. So, just as an example, British Airways is getting a brand new A350 and I want to fly on it. So I figured the second that they released seats on that flight, I booked that.
Like,
So that
I'm
was a year
having
in advance. That was a year in advance planning. But
nice.
a lot of my others are just kind of spur of the moment. So
Now, for those of my listeners who are not familiar with the Maldives, can you tell us exactly, like, where is that located at? What do you need to know about
sure. Yeah. So the Maldives are a country. So it's an island country in the middle of the Indian Ocean. It's just, if you imagine where India is on the map, it's sort of just to the southwest. And like I said, it's an independent country and it's a chain of extremely small coral islands. So even the main island where the airport is no bigger than a very very small city. So essentially, the way the Maldives works is there are all these tiny islands, and there are maybe two or three of them that are actually kind of local villages where local people live, and then many of them are resorts. So basically, there's kind of one island to there's a resort on each island uh, throughout the chain.
it? Okay.
So it's kind of and it's definitely very remote.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it sounds like getting groceries out there might be a little bit of a challenge if they didn't have
Yeah,
like.
there's no groceries.
So I guess staying at the resort is the idea. So
Yeah, it's a lot like it's not like being on a cruise,
okay,
like being on a cruise ship where like you're on the resort and there's nowhere else to go.
okay. So you're pretty
Yeah.
much, so it's almost like an all-inclusive resort in a way that you're kind of just staying within the resort area
Yeah.
and
It's like
enjoying.
an all-inclusive resort. where you have to pay for really expensive food.
So in preparation for this, I want to ask you, did you
Yeah.
have to get a visa, or did you have to take any travel medications? Was there anything that you needed very specifically to prep for before you decided to book this?
Yeah. Yep. So the Maldives, for U.S. passport holders, does not require a visa. You get what's called a visa on arrival. So
Okay.
essentially, you present your U.S. passport, and it's stamped just like any other country that doesn't require a visa. So yeah, so getting into the country is very easy. A few things to keep in mind. It is a very strict observant Muslim country. So they do not allow any pork products or alcohol or what they consider pornography to be brought in. So just be careful what you bring with you.
Okay.
But in like any of the cities where local people live, they don't allow alcohol. But the resorts have special alcohol licenses, so they can serve alcohol there.
Okay, fantastic. So
But
then,
and no travel medications needed. Sorry, yeah, nothing like that.
okay, all right, good. Because I know when you go to like India and some places like that, sometimes you have to get a shot ahead of time, depending on, or in Africa, you have to get something to prepare you for either, like malaria issues, or if there's something that might be digestive issues, you might have to be prepared for that ahead of time. So it doesn't sound like
Yep.
it's an issue with
Yeah, not in Maldives. And once you again, it is kind of like once you get to the resort island, everything's very modern, and modern sanitation systems, modern water systems, all of that.
Nice. Okay. So then you book. Okay. So then you book your vacation.
Yes.
You got
Yes.
your tickets. You're ready to go. What would someone going to the Maldives or on this vacation trip with that you were going on need to know about maybe pre-packing ahead of time?
Yeah. So my philosophy here was to pack as lightweight as possible, which is always my philosophy in general.
Okay.
Sometimes you do need to be concerned when traveling to certain conservative countries about the type of clothing that you wear.
Yeah.
But again, in Maldives, it's not as big of a deal because you are on a resort. So you can wear lightweight clothing, shorts. At this particular resort, there are a number of the dinner venues that don't allow tank tops. So just make sure you don't pack only tank tops. But for me, I just packed, frankly, 5 or 6 lightweight tropical shirts, 2 pairs of linen pants, a pair of sandals, and a pair of walking shoes. And that was essentially it.
We went to Bangkok back in 2016, where the humidity was just through the roof, and we went specially to pack linen and gauze clothing.
Yep.
And so I think it's kind of the same kind of climate, if I'm right.
Yeah, it's not quite as, Thailand is really humid. Maldives is somewhat humid, but it's not quite that wall of humidity that you get like right when you walk out the airport in Thailand.
Yeah.
But gauze is great. I actually brought a gigantic gauze sarong so that I could wrap it around myself if I was worried about getting sunburned.
Okay. Oh, and as far as that goes as well, I'm sure that packing like sunscreen is mandatory. You have to do that. So.
Yep. Oh yeah. Yeah. So one of the big activities there is snorkeling, and my husband, who I traveled with, did not put sunscreen on his back when we went snorkeling for the first day. And yeah, so good news is we made a spa day out of it the next day, so he could get a skin wrap.
But I feel bad about him because I was like, oh man, this is going to turn into a burn, and then he's going to peel. And
Yeah.
it's terrible.
Yep.
So,
yeah.
About that. Hopefully, he wasn't too much pain. So you guys live up in the Seattle or the Washington area, right?
Yep. Live in Seattle. Yep.
Okay. So did you fly out of SeaTac, or did you go to a different airport?
Yeah. So yes and no. We did initially fly out of SeaTac, but part of this trip was, again, to what I talked about earlier. There were some very specific airplanes I wanted to be on to get there. Yeah. So I needed to fly out of San Francisco to get on the first flight that I wanted to get on. Okay. So we actually took a short flight from Seattle to San Francisco to get the trip started.
And how long was the trip to now you didn't fly directly to the Maldives. You flew to
Dubai.
So how
Yeah.
long was that flight?
Yep. So from San Francisco to Dubai is 14 hours approximately, and then Dubai to Maldives is about 4.5 hours.
Okay. And you flew, okay, so so it was a combined. That's a long flight. I know when I went to Bangkok, and that's the point of reference I'm going to use for going over there in that general area. We flew from San Francisco, well, I'm sorry, LAX, all the way up in the Alaska area, and kind of did this arc down. Ended up in Shanghai, and then from there we took another flight over to Bangkok. But it was like so the first round was like 18 hours, and the other one was 5 hours on top of that. So yeah, I get how long those flights can be. It can just be kind of crazy. Which airline
Yep.
did you end up flying out on initially to get to Dubai? Was that Emirates or?
Yep. Yep. So if you're flying through Dubai,
Okay.
you're almost certainly going to be flying on Emirates.
Okay.
So that's their global hub. It's a massive airport and a massive airline hub. But yes, so it was San Francisco to Dubai and then Dubai to Malé,
Okay.
which Malé is the name of the airport in Maldives. Malé is the capital city.
Okay.
That was on Emirates.
Did you what kind of seating did you have? Did you go like coach, first class, business class? Like what did you decide?
Yeah, so on Emirates, and so that was kind of a separate part of this trip, was wanting to fly a couple of different first class products. So from San Francisco to Dubai, we flew on Emirates A380, which is the Airbus 380, the double decker plane. It's the largest plane, passenger plane that you can fly on. And it's the one that's famous for the Jennifer Aniston commercials where she takes a shower on the plane. So,
do they have like a club level or something that's like a lounge level or something like that? Is that what it is?
Yeah. So on the way an Emirates A380 is configured, the first level is all coach, and then the second level is the front 8 seats are first class, and then the rear of the second deck is business class, and then there's actually a staffed bar and lounge area in between.
Wow.
Pretty cool. Yeah. Yeah. So that's pretty cool. And then there's 2 what they call shower spas on board. So, although one of them was broken on our flight. So.
Oh, that's unfortunate.
Yeah, but there weren't that many people in first, so didn't have to wait or anything.
Okay, yeah. Well, that's not too bad. Now, okay, yeah. So you arrived directly in Dubai. I assume then there wasn't any major there wasn't like a pre-vacation destination location. You went directly to Dubai. You didn't stop at any small places along the way.
Nope, straight to Dubai.
Okay, and how long did you stay in Dubai directly?
Yep. So because I had to be clever with the schedules a little bit to get the exact flights I wanted, we did 3 days in Dubai. Okay. And actually, we didn't stay directly in the city of Dubai. We stayed in a beach resort area that's called Ras Al Khaimah, which is, it's kind of like a rural part of the United Arab Emirates. But we spent 3 days at the Ritz-Carlton there, which actually is probably one of the best beach resorts I've ever stayed at in my life.
Wow.
So, yeah, each villa, there's only, I think, like 20 villas, and each one has a private beach. It's amazing.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Man, you're spoiling me. Okay, so so you stay there at the Ritz-Carlton. Then you're there for a couple of days. Did you while you were in Dubai, did you happen to do the Burj Khalifa or anything like that while you were over there?
No, we intentionally were doing kind of this more. We didn't really want to do the city.
Okay.
I'll probably go back to Dubai and do like the city stuff. Okay. But we really liked being out in the rural area and kind of it was nice because it was super hot because it's their hot season. It was in the middle of summer. It was August. Okay. So actually, I think there were probably only 3 or 4 families at the resort. So we got amazing service and had a really great time. So
nice. Well, I mean, but you're dealing with the heat then, and that's another.
Yeah, it was tough to be out in the day.
For our listeners, they don't know us that well, but both Chad and I actually used to live in Phoenix, so we're
Yeah.
used to the dry heat, and it was kind of crazy at that point too. How does it compare to like for the American viewers? How does it compare to like the heat that you would get in Phoenix, for example?
Hotter and humider.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Because you're right on the ocean, so there's
Ooh.
more humidity. And then like raw temperature is like definitely at the top of a Phoenix summer. So
Oh man. Okay. I'll have to prepare a little bit better when I go out there next. Um, and stay tuned for that, viewers, on that one. I'll have more of a conversation on that. So let's talk about your itinerary. Okay. So
yeah.
starting in Dubai, you're there for 3 days. What's next
Yep.
after that?
Yep. Then we went back to Dubai Airport
Okay.
and flew to Male, which is the only international airport in the Maldives.
Okay.
So, and then on that flight, we took another first class, which is Emirates, just redesigned their first class for their other aircraft. And it actually has a full floor to ceiling suite with a fully enclosed door. And it's truly amazing. Space and room and privacy is crazy. So that was a lot of fun.
Okay.
So that was about a 4-hour flight.
Okay.
Then the interesting thing is then you arrive in Malé, you get through customs and immigration, as I described, which is fairly quick. There's basically it basically looks like if you've ever been to kind of a tropical type, kind of a tropical tourist destination airport. It's basically looks just like most of those.
Oh, nice.
So small, you kind of go. It's kind of outdoors. And so the thing about it is, though, when you arrive in Malé, you're still not at your resort because there aren't really resorts on, it's kind of a city. It's like the hub for everyone who lives there.
Yeah.
So then in order to get to your resort, you have to take a seaplane. And that applies to almost all resorts in the Maldives. There are most of them require a seaplane.
Okay.
So that was the next. Yeah, so that's also something good to know because there are weight restrictions on how much baggage you can bring on one of the seaplanes and things like that to keep in mind because seaplanes are obviously very sensitive to cargo weight and passenger weight.
Okay.
Yep. So you get out of the airport in Malé, and I was fortunate in that the resort we were staying at has a butler service at the airport.
Oh my
So there's a butler waiting with your name on it. They will take your bags, check your bags in, then to the flight for the seaplane flight. And then we got into a Bentley limo, and
Wow.
yeah, it was crazy. And then we were driven to the the St. Regis Lounge at the seaplane terminal because it's at the airport property, but it's like on the waterfront. So they have then their own lounge where you wait for the seaplane with your butler. It was just wild, but it was amazing. So we waited about an hour for the seaplane, and then the seaplanes, because there's tons of resorts, you actually put on a seaplane with people from a number of different resorts. So the seaplane actually makes multiple stops.
Mhm.
I think we were probably the fourth resort that it stopped at. But so it stops, unloads people at each resort as it goes. And then, it probably took about an hour for us to get to our resort and then from the airport.
Oh my goodness. Tell me a little bit about the resort. What did you like
Yeah.
about it? What did you dislike about it? Anything specific?
Sure. So it's a resort that has like what most people think of when they think of the Maldives. It has the overwater bungalows, which are rooms that are on piers, kind of over the water.
Mm-hmm.
It's built on a coral reef. So there's overwater rooms, and then there's also beachfront rooms. So on the island, you can get a private beach room, and then they also have a few of the what they call garden villas, which are kind of more on the interior of the island. And those are obviously the least expensive. But one thing you can do is, so you can use points or miles possibly to book one of those garden rooms, and then actually call the resort and ask to pay to upgrade, which is what I did.
Oh.
So I was able to pay the equivalent of like $150 a night to upgrade from a garden room to one of the overwater rooms.
Oh my gosh, you guys are so spoiling me. Sounds
So
like
that was a good deal. But yeah, the resort in general, it's self-contained island. It's pretty cool. You land and you're greeted by, well, actually on the way in the chauffeured limo, our resort butler sent us a video introducing himself to us.
nice.
And then he was there, and like the managers of the hotel and everybody was waving at us when the plane landed at the resort, and
Wow.
yeah, it was pretty cool.
Oh my goodness, that's awesome. So okay, so you spend your time there. Did you have any like pre-planned excursions or anything like that?
Yeah, I don't do much pre-planning, because, well, for a couple reasons. One is you sometimes it's helpful to actually get there and get your bearings and figure out, okay, like, which stuff actually do I want to. And the other thing is I don't want to end up getting overbooked.
Yes.
So we got there. The only thing we were sure we wanted to do was like snorkeling, which everybody does there. So they had already, like, our butler already asked us for like our shoe sizes so we could have the snorkels and fins ready for us.
Wow. Okay.
But then once we got there, we kind of talked about, okay, we kind of got our bearings, looked around, and then decided that we wanted to do jet skiing and parasailing. So
Okay.
and again, you have a personal butler. So you just basically text him or call him, or he comes to your room every day and serves you coffee and tea. And you just say, hey, today we'd like to do parasailing. And then he just kind of works it out.
That's
So
sounds amazing. Sounds
yeah.
like a lot of luxury, So having a weekend like that once in a while is pretty nice.
Yeah.
So any other destinations on this specific trip, or did you have to plan back
So
afterwards?
on the way back,
Mhm.
we went back through Qatar.
Oh, okay.
So I mean, approximately the same like amount of time and so forth. Like the flights are about the same. Qatar and the UAE are very close to each other. But yeah, we flew from Malé to Doha, and then spent just one night in Doha, and then flew from Doha back to the States.
Do you think it was a good idea to spend that additional day down between flights, or would you have wanted to have like just like a really short stint and like maybe only a couple hours that jumped on another?
Yeah. Um, I I've had short, like I've flown through Doha and Dubai and only been there for a couple hours, and that's fine. That's fine too. They're both really nice airports with lots of stuff to do.
Okay.
So I would go either way. Honestly, for this particular routing, because of the timing of the flights, would have been a really close call to fly in and then try to connect. And I just didn't want to have to do that on vacation, so I just put in an extra day.
That makes sense, and it
Yeah,
doesn't surprise me. You never want to be stuck in one of those situations where you just miss the flight and then your entire day is ruined.
yeah,
So,
yeah, exactly. And yeah, not worth it.
oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, I just said it's not worth it.
Yeah, no,
So,
I agree. What about as far as the customs process on the way back? Was there any surprises or anything that you had to be kind of a little bit concerned about?
um, no, actually, no. Two interesting things. In Qatar, there's actually a separate immigration arrival lounge if you're flying business class. So
Oh,
you actually go through like what looks like a normal airline lounge, but it's actually where they have the immigration and customs officers. So you just go through that way. It's super easy. Um, and then what I will pitch is going back to the US
mhm.
is, so I have global entry. My husband does not. And so we always end up getting in a fight because I hate waiting in line. Um, but this time, yeah, so this time I just said, you know what, we're separating. I'm going through global entry.
Oh,
So I went through global entry, and then I just waited outside the exit for him. And of course, he got sent to secondary, just randomly sent to secondary, and it took him forever. But yeah, get if you actually have global entry through Nexus, which anyone who lives near the Canadian border should get because it provides you fast immigration and customs for both the US and Canada.
I have a really quick story. We had a similar situation a couple of years ago when we went to,
Yeah.
We did this flight over to Europe where we went to London, Amsterdam, Rome, Vatican City, and Barcelona, and then came back. I had global entry just like you.
Yeah.
My husband didn't. So because we didn't both have global entry, I had to go through the normal like wait
Yeah.
line. That was about, I would say, 45 minutes to an hour in order to go through LAX in order to do that.
Oh
And
gosh.
so this last year, he decided to get global entry. Took us probably 15 minutes at the most to get through because
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
was really fast. I am thoroughly endorsing global entry. I think it's a great opportunity, and it doesn't take more than just an interview to be able to sit down with Department of Homeland Security, get your stuff taken care of, and then you're on your way. They'll send you that little thing that you can keep in your wallet for, I think it's 5 years or something like
Yep.
that.
It's good for the first birthday after 5 years. And another tip about global entry is they now have a program where you can do an interview upon entry, which means if you fill out the application online and you're approved on, like you get approved online and then you have to do, like you said, the interview with an immigration officer.
Yes.
However, if you get approved online, you actually can just, upon your next entry into the US, request an immediate interview, and they'll basically take you aside and do the interview while you're coming back into the US. It's called interview on arrival, and it means you don't have to worry about making a special trip to the airport or wherever you need to do it to do your interview. So,
Question for you on this.
Yeah.
Because I don't know the answer to this. Maybe you do. If not, I'll have to do a little bit of research on this. Do you know, once the 5 years is up and once you're past that next birthday, do you have to actually go back for another interview, or is it something where you can just request
It depends, actually. I do know the answer to that.
Okay.
And the answer is it depends. So you fill in your application for renewal,
Okay.
and they basically put you through the same kind of data underwriting that they normally would. And then if you're identified as being an extremely low risk at renewal, they just renew you by mail.
Okay.
If, like, for whatever reason, they determine that you're kind of more of a medium risk, they will request an interview at renewal. So it really just depends. There's no way in advance knowing. I assume, because I have traveled to a lot of countries in the Middle East, that I will not get a low risk score. Wow. So I assume I'm going to have an interview for my next one. And for me personally, because I do Nexus, which also includes a similar review by Canadian CBSA, the Canadian Border Services, it kind of doubles your chances of getting an interview. So,
well, any as far as the takeaways on this kind of a trip, what were the real pros and any cons that you had as part of this process?
Yeah, pros on this. I mean, the level of service and just pure, true, genuine beauty. I've been to all the islands of Hawaii. I've been to Tahiti, Bora Bora. I've been to a lot of places, and just the sheer beauty of this place was incredible. And the level of service was excellent. And it was honestly, it was a dream trip for me, and so it was something I really am excited that I was able to do.
Were you okay with dealing with the travel times, or would you call that a con as far as the process?
No, I enjoy travel. So yes. I mean, the longer I'm on an airplane, the happier I am. I could be, yeah.
No, I mean, there's people who tend to either like to get to the destination and they're like, just get out as quickly as possible, or there's people who like the journey. And it sounds like you're one of these people who I think likes the journey as much as you would. And I'm one of these people where, like, from Southern California, I could take 5 hours to drive to Las Vegas from here, or I could take a 45-minute flight, and I'm like, just put a drink in my hand, give me to Vegas, and I'm totally fine. Just give me starting to gamble, and I'm cool. So I mean, I think there's validity to both types of travel. It just depends on, and maybe the typical viewer of this channel, the traveler, might want to assess which one they are, because if you don't mind that longer travel time, you can sometimes get really good deals on that, and in fact, you can sometimes get really good seating as
Yeah.
well, and something like that. On that same topic, are there any type of value adds that you'd like to give to the viewers, or maybe cost savings or best practices?
Um, yeah, so a couple things. Um, on this particular, so in terms of a best practice, definitely keep up with all the different travel communities out there online, because I keep very active on, whether it's channels like yours or like Point Sky blog, 1 Mile at a Time, all those blogs. That's how I kind of worked out that there was this real sweet spot for award redemptions for this particular resort, which sort of led me to all the other parts of the trip that I wanted to combine. And the other thing that might be a good fit for some people that I did on this trip was, because I was so specific with exactly the aircraft, airlines, and flights I wanted to take, I actually paid a mileage booking service to handle the bookings for me. So I paid a couple $100, and essentially someone like went through all the, I basically told them which aircraft and which airline I wanted to fly, and they put together an itinerary using all of the different points currencies I have, like whether it was my airline miles,
Wow.
my Chase miles, my Amex points, and figured out the most efficient way to use my miles.
So in effect,
And I
you're
mean,
acting as kind of like your travel agent.
it's like a travel, sort of like a travel agent, but an expert on specifically points travel.
Okay.
So that was something I hadn't done before, but that was kind of helpful because I was able to make the most of my miles and points that way. So
Perfect. One thing I want to make mention, and just piggyback up what you said for the viewers, there are a lot of different ways in which you can absorb a lot of information, whether it's through seeing this video or whether it's through a podcast like like to listen to. I guess it depends on the type of learner that you are. If you're more of an auditory learner, if you're more of a visual learner, and visual learner can either be a video or it can be an actual blog where you're actually reading over the posts. It depends on the type of person that you are and the best way that you know how to absorb that information. So thank you very much for mentioning that. That being said, that brings us to the end of our video. If people wanted to know a little bit more about the Maldives or any of the destinations that you've gone to, how would they find out more about that? How can they reach you?
yeah. Well, they can see my travel photos on Instagram. So it's just at Chad Swaney, ChadSwaney. And they'll see lots of sunsets and photos and all that kind of fun stuff.
Awesome. Very good. Well, again, Dr. Swaney, I would like to thank you very much for joining. It's so weird to call you that because, again, we've known each other for years. It's like, oh. So, again, thank you very much for being on my vlog this week. I really appreciate it. For those of you who have any questions, you can certainly feel free to make a comment on this video. You can reach me on my email at scott@theprofessortravel.com. But until the next time, I want to just say thank you very much. Enjoy your travels, and we'll talk again. Take care, everybody. Goodbye.